Hey everyone, I'm going to try something a little different this time by doing a voiceover because I had tried to extend an audio cable in the cockpit and it ended up breaking audio completely, so any commentary I was trying to give in the cockpit wasn't captured at all. But I do want to talk about this flight in particular because it was really important for me. This was the first time that I've left this airport to go somewhere else and came back on my own. I've had a lot of anxiety about flying out of this strip myself and trying to come back in, and there's a lot of factors that played into that for me. I think one of those things is that a lot of my training has been done at large airports. So a chunk of my training was done at Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I finished my training for my private in Millville, New Jersey, and both of those are pretty large airports. And this caused the sight picture when coming into this small grass strip to feel like I really didn't have much room to get it down and stopped. And so I always had a tendency to try to force it down faster than the airplane actually wanted to settle. And it took a while to break that habit when coming in. I think another contributing factor is that it was over 9 years since I was really flying at all, and so I had this gap of time where I hadn't done much flying. And another factor, of course, is going to be I'm flying a tailwheel airplane for the first time, and putting all those things together, I wanted to be super careful and make sure I had all my ducks in a row before I got out of here and tried to come back myself. So my goal on this flight is to head over to Millville, New Jersey. It's a big airport, so I wanted to do a couple of landings there just to make sure I still had the technique down since my last solo, and then return back to Bucks Airport, which is the grass strip I keep my airplane, and do one or two there. First landing, I remember the airport was a little bit busy. I had somebody ahead of me. There was somebody in a Cessna 172 behind me. So I got it down and then ended up taxiing off the runway just to give room for the other traffic. And everyone else ended up landing and doing full stops. And so I had the airport to myself for the second run. I've been training to do mostly wheel landings with this airplane. And this airplane can be pretty bouncy if you don't get it quite right. There's still a pullback where you hold off, but it's not really a flare like you would do in a tricycle gear. And I've been trying to also keep a little bit of power in, and my instructor keeps telling me, fly it to the runway. You're basically flying it until you touch. I tend to push forward a little bit when I touch. That unloads the wings a little bit. It lets the airplane settle, right? Because you're decreasing your angle of attack. And then, keep it straight until the tail wheel touches, and then you gotta keep it straight some more. I sometimes find that, getting the tail down and when that touches, that's the hardest point for me. We had started doing touch and goes at one point where we would touch down on the mains and then immediately go again without the tail hitting the ground. But I had told the instructor, I really want to work on getting the tail down, because to me, that's the hardest part of flying tailwheel. And so I pretty much always do full stop landings now just to keep working on that. By the way, if you'd like to follow along with my journey, please subscribe. I'd love to have you here. As you can tell, I'm not going to be dragging the wheels of this airplane through water in a river or landing on snow-covered peaks of mountains, but I'm going to be trying to do some trips and build up my confidence to use this plane for fun. And yeah, feel free to come along. This second landing felt a little bit better than the first one to me. It still had a little bit of a bounce to it, but I was at least more aligned with the center line, which is good. I did a full stop landing on this one also, but I did it on the runway and then just took off again because I was the only person in the pattern at this point. And I wanted to get back to Bucks pretty quickly, so I had a babysitter this night and she only had a very small window of time for me to do this, and so I needed to get back. And it's unfortunate because this was a perfect night. Like, the weather and wind were just perfect, super smooth. But I'm grateful to have gotten to do this at all, because again, this was really important for me to have done this, and yeah, this is great. On a side note, if anyone has been feeling like they haven't been progressing as quickly as they'd like, I'd like to point you to an article written by none other than the previous owner of my airplane. In the article, he reflects on how pressure to meet outdated expectations, like soloing quickly, can undermine a student's confidence. He argues that persistence, self-reflection, and embracing the learning process are far more valuable than speed. His article spoke to me, and I'll link it in the description below. Alright, let's speed up video to get back to Bucks pretty quickly. So I'm approaching Bucks, and I'm going to enter the upwind for runway 36, and so you'll see me do upwind and then turn left for a crosswind, then left for a downwind, and then left for a base, and then left for final again. So it looked like I'm taking a bunch of turns. You can see the airport here towards the bottom left corner. It's those long row buildings, and there's a long grass strip right next to them. That's where I'm going to be trying to turn into. On this first landing attempt, I ended up doing a go around because I came in a little high, and I did try to dump it in, but you can see I was gaining too much speed, and when I tried to pull back, I ended up ballooning up too much, and very quickly made the decision that I want to go around. There was a split second calculation where I was thinking, hey, I really need to get back for the babysitter, I'm getting close on time, but you know, I decided to just go around again because there's no reason to force it down. On this approach, I was a little bit high again. You'll see me pull 4 clicks of flaps here. I actually have 40 degrees of flaps, but my flaps are very small. Although they can be effective at times, and you'll see here I'm coming down good and my speed hasn't increased that much. And so this was a really good approach. I feel like it was pretty good landing overall, and I was able to get it down without much issue. Turns out I got home only 3 minutes later than I needed to for the babysitter, and she showed up 3 minutes later than I had asked her for, and so I think everything worked out. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. This was a little longer than I had anticipated, but hopefully some of the things I had to say about my experience and what I'm working on now was enjoyable. So thanks, and I'll talk to you soon.